So, Arsenal's lost to Bournemouth, right? Everyone's talking about that red card for Saliba. But you've been digging into the analysis.
hmm
What's got you thinking there's more to it?
Well, even before the red card happened, you could just tell Arsenal weren't quite themselves.
Yeah.
Jamie Redknapp said it best, actually.
Ooh.
He called them sloppy, leggy, passive, even when they had all 11 players on the pitch.
Not themselves, like that saying goes.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so interesting, because it's like, did the red card cause the problem or just make it way worse?
Ooh, I like that. Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
So are we saying this was a pre-existing problem that the red card just, like, amplified?
It's a good analogy, right? It's like, imagine you're driving a car and you get a flat tire, a pain, right? But if you were already driving like a maniac before that,
Oh, yeah.
the flat tire's more likely to happen, and the consequences are going to be way worse.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. So Arsenal's performance was the bad driving? The red card was the flat tire? I'm with you? Okay, so let's break down this bad driving a bit. One thing I keep seeing is that Arsenal was missing some key players for this match. How much did that really matter?
It's huge, honestly. Think of it like an orchestra, right?
Okay.
Arsenal was missing Odegaard, their captain. He's like the conductor, sets the tempo, guides the play.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they were without Saka, their star attacker. So if Odegaard's the conductor, Saka's the lead violinist taking solos, creating those exciting moments.
Yeah, those are some big shoes to fill.
Exactly. You know, Raheem Sterling replaced Saka, talented player, definitely. But as Redknapp pointed out, he just doesn't have that same unpredictable spark.
It's like Sterling's playing the notes, but Saka's improvising jazz solos out there. So we're talking about more than just individual skill then. It's about how these players fit into the whole system, the energy they bring.
Precisely. A team can have incredible players, but if they don't work well together, if their styles don't mesh, it falls apart.
Right, like all the pieces matter.
Odegaard's control, Saka's directness, they open things up for everyone else. You take those away, the whole team's rhythm is disrupted.
Makes sense. Which brings us back to that red card, actually. Something that really stood out was Arteta after the match. He seemed more frustrated with what happened before the foul rather than the foul itself. What's that about?
Yeah, that's telling, isn't it? He actually said, "We have to fault ourselves. Tonight we made two big errors that have cost us the game, unfortunately." He's not blaming the ref or anything. He's talking about that misplaced pass by Trossard that put Saliba in a tough spot. And then Martinelli's missed chance right before Bournemouth scored.
So he's saying even without the red card, those mistakes were already putting them on the back foot.
Exactly. He's pointing to this pattern of uncharacteristic errors creeping into their game, things we just didn't see earlier in the season when they were on that winning streak. The red card just made everything way more difficult.
It's like they were playing with fire and then, boom, got burned.
Exactly. And that's where this whole idea of an error budget comes in, you know?
Error budget. Okay, tell me more about that.
So every team makes mistakes, right?
Right. Part of the game.
But the best teams, they know how to minimize the damage.
So it's not just about making fewer mistakes, it's about what happens after you make one. How do you stop it from snowballing?
Exactly. Luck plays a part, sure, but the really good teams, they create their own luck. You know what I mean?
Oh, I like that. So early in the season, maybe Arsenal could get away with a sloppy pass here, a missed tackle there.
Right. But now, opponents see that, they start targeting those weaknesses. They pressure you into making those mistakes when it really hurts.
Fascinating. So the margin for error actually shrinks as the season goes on because everyone studied your game.
Exactly. And you know who gets that? The players, especially the experienced ones. Like, we have Declan Rice saying, "We've kicked ourselves in the foot 3 times in 8 games."
Oh, interesting. He sees it.
That's a leader recognizing a pattern, not just a couple of unlucky breaks.
Okay, so bringing it all together. The red card might have been the final nail in the coffin, but really, Arsenal was already on shaky ground.
You got it. But here's the thing about football, right? Even the best teams have off days.
Right, everyone's beatable on any given Sunday, as they say.
This match, it was a wake-up call for sure, but it also gives us a glimpse into some of Arsenal's vulnerabilities.
Ooh, I like where this is going. So if I'm another team watching this match, what am I taking notes on? How do I beat Arsenal?
Well, for one, you saw how they struggled without Odegaard to control the tempo. If you can press them high, force those errors, especially without him on the pitch, they become much more vulnerable.
It's like we're getting a peek behind the curtain, seeing how the machine works or doesn't work. as the case may be.
Exactly. And that's what makes analyzing football so interesting, right? It's not just about the score, it's about those tactical battles happening on the pitch.
Absolutely. So with all that said, what should we be watching for in Arsenal's next match? What's going to tell us if this was just a blip or a sign of a deeper problem?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? First off, how do they respond mentally? Do they come out with fire in their bellies, determined to prove this was just a one-off?
Right. Do they have that champion's mentality, as they say?
Exactly. Or do they look shaky, unsure of themselves? That'll tell us a lot.
Okay, so that's the mental side. What about tactically? Will Arteta change anything?
Well, if Odegaard and Saka are still out, he's going to have to adapt, right? Maybe he tweaks the formation or gives more responsibility to other players.
So it's about being flexible, not just sticking to a system that worked before, especially when you're missing key pieces.
Precisely. The best managers are like chess masters, always thinking a few moves ahead, adapting to their opponent and the circumstances.
You know, it's funny. Before we started talking, I was so focused on that red card. It felt like that was the moment that decided the match. But now...
Just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. The red card matters, but it's not the whole story. It's how all those other factors, the errors, the missing players, they created this situation where the red card could happen. A&D has such a big impact.
Right. It's like that saying, luck favors the prepared. And that day, Arsenal, they just weren't as prepared as we've seen them.
And their luck ran out.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I could write a dissertation on football analysis after this conversation.
That's what we like to hear. It's about going deeper, you know, understanding the WHY behind what.
Absolutely. Okay, so someone's about to watch Arsenal's next match. What's the one thing they should watch for? What's going to tell us the most about whether Arsenal learned from this loss?
Watch how they react when they make a mistake.
Ooh, interesting.
Do they drop their heads, start pointing fingers, or do they regroup, you know, talk to each other, get back into formation with that look in their eyes, that determination to fix it? That tells you more than any scoreline ever could.
I love that. Those little moments, that body language, it reveals their character as a team.
Exactly. Those tiny details, that's what separates the good teams from the truly great ones.
This has been amazing. Thanks for the deep dive. I feel like I learned so much.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat about the beautiful game. Until next time.